Now, for our first question, what we're going to look at is really 3 questions in one, but this will help to review our material for Unit 4. So the first thing we have is, it says a line is parallel to y equals 2x plus 3, and it passes through a certain point. We're going to have a second line that's perpendicular to a given line, and it passes through a certain point. And then we're going to find where do the lines intersect. So 2 equations here. So this is a system of equations, and where the lines intersect, that's going to have an x coordinate and a y coordinate, so 2 unknowns as well. So we have to write the equations, and then we're going to have to solve those equations. Now, probably this could be a question in itself, but just to review that material, I've thrown this one in here. So the word parallel tells you the lines have the same slope. So if we can find the slope of this line, then we know the line we're looking for has the same slope. So the slope for this one is 2. What we're looking for is how many x's does it have if it's written in slope-intercept form. Now, for this question here, actually we have the y-intercept. As the x value is 4, the y-intercept is -4. So I could just go ahead and write the equation straight away. Same slope, 2, just like it was here, and the y-intercept is -4. Now, you might not spot that though, so this is the slope, and this is a point that it passes through. So we can actually use the point slope formula for this. That's what I'm going to try and use here. If it'll let me. There we go. Now let me slide up a little bit. So here's the formula, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. I'm going to scroll down a little bit so we can see. And then we substitute in. So m is our slope, which is 2. Our x value is 0, and our y value is -4. So our first x value is 0, and our first y value is -4. Now when we have a subtract a negative, that's the same as adding, so we're going to put a plus for that. And then we can go ahead and distribute this. And I'm going to have to pause the video for a second. So continuing with this question, what I was just about to do was substitute these 2 points into this formula here. So there's my x value, there's my y value, my first x value, my first y value. The 2 negatives make a plus here. And if we distribute here, 2 times 0 is 0. And then I'm going to rearrange this as well, because I want this in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to move the 4 to the side, so I subtract 4 from both sides, and 0 take away 4 is going to give me -4. So there's my first equation. And that's a good review for a question that was in Unit 4. Now the second part is, it says a second line is perpendicular. So perpendicular, the rule for this one is we find the slope, and then we do the negative reciprocal. So reciprocal is when we flip the fraction, and then we just change the sign by doing the negative. Now the slope for this one is also 2. Now if I want to flip this though, I want to write it as 2 over 1. So if I flip this, I get 1 over 2, and then I need to change the sign. So the perpendicular slope is -1/2. I'm given a point here, -212. So it's the same method I did on this question here. I'm going to use the point slope formula. So you write the formula down, and then we substitute in. So there's my negative reciprocal for slope, which I plugged in here. The y value is 12, so my first y value is 12. And I go to subtract the x value, my first x value, which is -2. So I go to subtract -2. Now, if we subtract a negative, I could just go ahead straight away here and put plus. And you might want to do that as you're going along to make this a little easier. Now when I distribute here, -1/2 times x is -1/2 x. -1/2 times +2 is going to be -1. Positive and a negative gives me a negative. And if you're not too good with the fractions, make sure you use your calculator for that step. And to make it say y equals, I'm going to add 12 to both sides as well. And -1 plus 12 is +11. And that could just be a question in its own right for Unit 4. Now to tag this in with what we've just been doing in Unit 6, I've asked where do these lines intersect? So we've given an equation. We've now got a second equation. And then we're going to try and solve where do they equal each other, which is the Unit 6 work. Now they're both in slope-intercept form. So this was the step that we actually looked at when we did this before. We're going to go to Menu. We're going to go to Graph. We're going to type in both equations and then Draw. And then we're going to make sure we can see the intersection. And if we can see the intersection, we're going to press F5 twice, G-solve and then intersect. If we can't see the intersection, we're going to zoom out by pressing Zoom, Zoom out, and then Execute. And we might have to do that a few times until we can actually see the intersection. So let me go back to the question that we had. Here we are. Now I have my calculator here as well. So my first equation is 2x minus 4. So I'm going to go to, I'm in Menu already. So Menu, I'm going to go to Graph, hit Execute, and then I've got room to type in my 2 equations here. So my first equation is 2x minus 4. So 2x minus 4. Then I'm going to go to my second equation, negative 1/2 x. And as I'm entering this one, I might want to put parentheses around this one. So 1 divided by 2x. And what we don't want to do is do 1 divided by 2x. We want to do 1 divided by 2 and then times it by x. So that's a good way around that problem. Plus 11. Another clever way is enter it as a decimal. 1/2 is 0.5. So we could put negative 0.5x here as well. Once we've got both entered, we press execute. And then we've got an option to draw this, which is the button underlined here. So F6. And sure enough, I can actually see one of the lines for this. So I'm going to zoom out. So zoom, pick it out, and then press execute. Now you can actually move this cross up to where you think the other line is, but we might not always know. So I'm just going to press execute. Now we can sort of see the second line, but still not good enough. So zoom, out, execute. And then now I can see the intersection. Once you can see the intersection twice, we press F5 twice. F5 is G-solve, and then we want to find where do they intersect. So I-sect is that. And then it gives you the answer down here in the corner. So x is 6, y is 8, and it also tells you that is the intersection there as well. So that's how we're going to do questions when they're in slope-intercept form.